On this channel, I like to not only share my stories, but sometimes stories from other drivers. And there was an incident right here in my town last night that I'd kind of like to highlight. It happened at the street corner behind me. It started at the brewery that's over my right shoulder, which I'm not going to identify for some legal and liability issues, which might be apparent later in the video. The incident ended right across the street at a music hall. Here's what happened. One of our local rideshare drivers got a call to the brewery, and when he got there, he found 4 extremely inebriated fellows out front. They were all guys from Australia who were a little bit unfamiliar with the territory, and that plays into the story. So one of the guys comes up to the window and he says, "We're trying to get to this music hall. We have to get there in a hurry. Here's $100 if you can rush us there." At that point, he realized the destination was the music hall right across the street. So he canceled the ride, and that's when he got the drunk dudes from down under and walked them across the street to the music hall. So a lot of the local drivers are praising him for what he did, which I think is exactly the right reaction. He did a good thing by canceling that ride and walking them over there. He wanted to make sure they got there safely. Kudos to him for that. Now, I've been thinking a little bit more about this situation, and while I still agree the driver handled it in a very good way, I think he could have done something a little bit better to ensure safety. And as I like to tell my riders, my number 2 priority is getting you to your destination. Number 1 is safety. So, thinking about it a little more, here's what I would have done. I would have gotten the guys into my car and driven them across the street. I rarely advocate for driving short distances that one can easily walk, but hear me out on this. The 4 guys were quite drunk. He said some of them were so inebriated they were having to grab onto the building to stay upright. Now, if I take them across the street, to me, I've assumed some responsibility for them. Legally, I don't know if I have any liability for them, but I feel like I'm responsible for getting them there safely on my suggestion. So what happens if you have an inebriated guy who passes out in the middle of the street or trips and falls down? This is a busy entertainment district on a Saturday night. My problem then is I have to keep this guy from being this year's recipient of the Patrick Duffy Speed Bump Award. So I've got to stop traffic, worst case scenario, call an ambulance. Not a great idea. It would have been a lot safer to put them in the car and drive them across the street when the light changed. Or actually, there are stop signs at this intersection. So, wait until you have clear passage, get them over there. But again, I think he did a good job. Fortunately, it ended well. No one got hurt. One of our other drivers didn't like my idea of putting them in my car because the idea was, you could have a drunk person throw up in your car, and that's true, and that's a whole other segment I'm working on, the pukers. But if you think about it, just going across the street, there's an extremely small window of opportunity to have one of those guys throw up in the car. So basically, you have a low risk of vomiting in the car versus possibly a high risk of some sort of accident happening with a quartet of drunk people crossing the road. Anyway, I'd love to hear your questions and comments about this or other situations. Easiest way to stay in touch, hit that little subscribe button. Just like I love my passengers, I love my subscribers. As always, thanks for watching.